नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. Let's start chanting the verses of the 12th chapter and then we will continue our discussion. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 12, The Deliverance of Aghasura. Shri Shukha Uvacha क्वचिद् वनाशाय मनोददद्व्रजात् प्रातः समुत्थाय वयस्य वत्सपान् प्रबोधयन् शृङ्गरवेण चारुणा विनिर्गतो वत्सपुरःसरो हरि तेनैव साकं पृथुका सहस्रश स्निग्धासुषिक्वेत्र विषाणवेणवः स्वान् स्वान् सहस्रोपरि सङ्ख्ययान्वितान् वत्सान् पुरस्कृत्य विनिर्ययुर्मुदा कृष्णवत्सैरसङ्ख्यातैर्यूथीकृत्य स्ववत्सकान् चारयन्त्योर्बलीलाभिर्विजहृस्तत्र तत्रः फलप्रवालस्तबकसुमनपिच्छधातुभिः काचगुञ्जामणिस्वर्णभूषिता अप्यभूषयन् मुष्णन्तोऽन्योन्यशिक्यादीन् ज्ञातान् आराच्य चिक्षुपुः तत्रत्याश्च पुनर्दूराधसन्तश्च पुनर्ददु यदि दूरं गतः कृष्णो वनशोभेक्षणायतम् अहं पूर्वम् इति संस्पृश्य रेमिरे केचिद्वेणुन् वादयन्तो ध्मान्तशृङ्गाणि केचन केचिद्भृङ्गै प्रगायन्त कूजन्त कोकिलै परे विच्छायाभिप्रधावन्तो गच्छन्तः साधुहंसकै बकैरुपविशन्तश्च नृत्यन्तश्च कलापिभिः विकर्षन्त कीशबालान् आरोहन्तश्च तैध्रुमान् विकुर्वन्तश्च तैः साकं प्लवन्तश्च पलाशिषु साकं भेकैर्विलङ्घन्तः सरितः स्रवसम्प्लुता विहसन्त प्रतिच्छाया शपन्तश्च प्रतिस्वनान् इत्थं सतां ब्रह्मसुखानुभूत्या दास्यं गतानां परदैवतेन मायाश्रितानां नरतारकेण साकं विजहृकृतपुण्यपुञ्जा यत्पादपांसु बहुजन्मकृच्छ्रतो धृतात्मभियोगिभिरप्यलभ्य स एव यदृग्विषयस्वयं स्थितः किं वर्ण्यते दिष्टमतो व्रजौकसाम् अथागनामाभ्यपतन् महासुरस्तेषां सुखक्रीडनवीक्षणाक्षम नित्यं यदन्तर्निजजीवितेप्सुभिः पीतामृतैरप्यमरैः प्रतीक्षते दृष्ट्वार्भकान् कृष्णमुखान् अघासुर कंसानुशिष्टः सबकी बकानुज अयं तु मे सोदरनाशकृत्तयोर्द्वयोर्ममैनं सबलं हनिष्ये एते यदा मत्सुहृदस्तिलाप कृतास्तदा नष्टसमाव्रजौकस प्राणे गते वर्ष्मसुकानुचिन्ता प्रजासवस्प्राणभृतो हि एते इति व्यवस्या जगरं बृहद्वपो स योजनायाम महाद्रिपीवरं धृत्वाद्भुतं व्यातगुहाननं तदा पथि व्यषेदग्रशनाशयाखल धराधरोष्ठो जलदोत्तरोष्ठो दर्याननान्तो गिरिशृङ्गदंष्ट्र द्वान्तान्तरास्यो विततात्वजिह्व परुषानिलश्वासदवेक्षणोष्ण दृष्ट्वा तं तादृशं सर्वे मत्वा वृन्दावनश्रियम् व्याता जगरतुण्डेन ह्युत्प्रेक्षन्ते स्म लीलया अहो मित्राणि गदत सत्त्वकूटं पुरस्थितम् अस्मत्सङ्ग्रसनव्यातव्यालतुण्डाय तेन वा सत्यम् अर्ककरारक्तम् उत्तराहनुवद्घनम् अधराहनुवद्रोधस्तत्प्रतिच्छायया ऋणं प्रतिस्पर्धेति सृक्काभ्यां सव्यासव्येन गोदरे तुङ्गशृङ्गालयोऽप्येतास्तं तद्दंष्ट्राभे च पश्यत आस्त्रायाम मार्गोऽयं रसनां प्रतिगर्जति येषामन्तर्गतं ध्वान्तम् एतदप्यन्तराननं दावोष्णखरवातोऽहं श्वासवद् भाति पश्यत तद्दग्धसत्त्वदुर्गन्धोऽप्यन्तरामीशगन्धवत् अस्मान् किमत्र ग्रसिता निविष्टान् अयं तथा चेद्बकवद्विनङ्क्ष्यति क्षणादनेनेति बकायुषन्मुखं वीक्षोधसन्तः करताडनैर्ययुर् इत्थं मिथो तथ्यमतज्ञभाषितं श्रुत्वा विचिन्त्येत्यमृषा मृषायते रक्षो विदित्वा किल भूतरित्स्थितः स्वानां निरोधुं भगवान् मनोदधे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Welcome everyone. Dandavat Pranam at the feet of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Thank you for continuing to engage me in your service by empowering me to speak something favorable, something in line with Shastra to give pleasure to Sri Hari Guru and Vaishnavas. Thank you for your continued support. So today we start from text 13. Text 13 has a change of mood. Till now in the first 12 verses, we found how Krishna was frolicking in the forest with his friends. But from the 13th verse of the 12th chapter of the 10th canto, there's change of mood because this is the entrance of Aghasura. So sorry, I had to keep you waiting for 10 days for Aghasura's arrival. But isn't it amazing that it's more important to actually frolic in the frolic pastimes of Krishna and his friends, which is the goal, than to just welcome the entry of a demon? So there is pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti means the positivity, and the nivritti means the negativity. Anartha nivritti and artha pravritti. So discussing the pastimes of Krishna with his devotee friends is the artha pravritti. It is the positivity. It's the positive light that we have to chase. And discussing the qualities of Aghasur, of course, that's also taking us towards the positivity, but that's discussing the negative qualities of Aghasur. So we had to delay that by a few days. Nonetheless, let's begin. Let's chant 13 and we will see the word for word and discuss further. Athāgha-nāmābhyapatan mahāsuras teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ nityaṁ yad-antar nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ pītāmṛtair amaraiḥ pratīkṣyate. We will see what Srila Prabhupada has given for the purport, but first we will see the words and then we will flash the purport. The first word in the verse is atha. Atha. Srila Jiva Goswami Pad writes, Atha is bhinnopakrama. Upakrama means topic and bhinna means different. So till now, the topic was Krishna frolicking with his friends, but now there is a bhinna upakrama, bhinnopakrama, change of topic, vishayantara. And the word atha in the beginning, it indicates a new start, a new commencement, a new twist in the discussion of the pastime. And what is that twist? Aghāsura-abhyapatan. The word abhyapatat means sudden arrival. There was the sudden arrival of a mahāsura. Mahāsura means a big demon. That maha could mean he was very demoniac by nature, or he was very tall, humongous, big in his physical stature. So he was a mahāsura, a great demon, a big demon, a humongous demon. And abhyapatat, he suddenly arrived there. And what was his name? What was his nama? Agha. Agha was his name. Actually, in Sanskrit, the word agha means sin. So I don't know how he got the name Agha, but nonetheless, he was called Agha. He was the personification of sin. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agham dhunvanti kar sneha niharam iva bhaskara. The sixth canto Bhagavatam describes that all the sins, Agha, they are like fog in the night sky. The night sky in our life represents our ignorance, and all the fog or the smog that we have collected, that's the sinful mentality over so many lifetimes. So just like the rising of the sun destroys and dissipates all darkness and dispels all the clouds or the fog, Similarly, the rising of devotional sentiments in the dark sky of our heart, it actually brightens the sky with knowledge and also destroys the fog of sinful mentality. Bhagavatam, 6th canto. Also, we see Sanketyam Parihasyam Va Stobam Helanameva Va Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam Ashesha Agha Haram Vidu. Ashesha Agha Haram Vidu. Even accidental chanting of the holy name of Krishna can destroy the agha, the sinful tendencies of the heart. Not just chanting to call out to Krishna, but if you call out Krishna's name, hinting to call out to somebody else, still it works. Or if you call out to the holy name in a mood of mockery, where you don't want to chant, but you see some devotees chanting and you say, "Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna." Not that you want to chant, but you're kind of getting into the fun, still it works. Stobam, whether it's musical concert and you're singing the holy name just as a musical performance, or Helanam, just accidental call. Let's say somebody has a sneeze, or somebody is yawning, or accidentally slips from stairs and just holds on and says, Krishna. You sneeze and you say, Krishna. Even that would work. That one sneeze can help us from the greatest sneeze of repeated birth and death because of the chanting of the holy name. So there the word says, Vaikuntha Nama Grahana Ashesha Agha Haram Vidu. Unlimited agha, sins are destroyed even by accidental chanting of the holy name. Then what to speak of intentional, faithful, daily, diligent, sincere, consistent chanting? If these adjectives are used in our life for the japa process, then kimuta shraddhaya granhan, then what can be said? Damshtri damshtra hatom lecho haram iti puna puna uktvapi muktim apnoti kim puna shraddhaya granhan. The word haram in another language means abominable. So if someone says haram with anger in their heart, the Lord still takes it as haram, oh Ram, by his kind sweetness, his magnanimous compassion. So then what if someone actually says, Ha Ram, oh Ram, then what will the Lord have in his treasury to offer? Nothing. Therefore, he offers himself. So the point is, even accidental performance of bhakti or chanting the holy name destroys sin. And the word for sin used in Shastra is agha. So here, athāgha-nāmābhyapatan mahāsura. A very big demon by the name Agha or Aghasura, he arrived there. Where did he arrive? Tatra, Vrindavane, in the forest of Braj, where the boys were Kechid Venun Vadayanta Dhmanta Shringani Kechana, Kechid Bringai Pragayanta Kujantam Kokilai Pare. Wherever the boys are running after the shadow of the birds and jumping, squatting like frogs, and singing like the cuckoos and dancing like the peacocks and pulling the tail of baby monkeys, and where they're decorating one another and playing on their flutes and buffalo horns and climbing up the trees and bathing in the waterfall and splashing each other with the waters of the ponds. That's where Aghasur comes. Please note, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Vrindavan's leela Shakti, which is the pastime potency, was saying, Hey Krishna, Kvachit vanashaya mano dadhat vrajat pratha samuthaya vayasya patsapan. The reason why you left home was to have your breakfast in the forest. First breakfast with your friends. And now that you're spending early morning time frolicking with your friends, what's going to happen to all that prasadam that Maya Yashoda has made for you? Your desire is our command. So the Leela Shakti said, Krishna, if it's your desire that you want to have the first breakfast meal deep into the forest, then stop playing and actually start eating. And therefore, to bring in that change of mood, Aghasura was sent. So you can hit multiple fruits with the same stone. Not we, but Krishna can. And what Krishna can't, his pastime potency can. So the pastime potency is fulfilling many desires. Change of mood so that Krishna honors his breakfast, deliverance of a demon, at the same time giving us an opportunity to destroy the Aghāsura-like sinful mentality in the heart by being listeners to this pastime. At the same time, when Krishna and his friends enter the mouth of Aghasura, that's a new scintillating experience for them because they are getting a new cave to enter. It's like a transcendental dopamine kick for them because, hey, what's that excitement about? That's one cave we haven't we haven't experienced and we haven't entered. At the same time, when you do something physically exhausting and at the same time emotionally draining, then you want to eat more because of fatigue. Or sometimes it's just in the mind. There's a concept called a stress eating. So when you're stressed out because of something, you want to eat more. Sometimes there's this natural phenomena where you're not hungry, but you're stressed. And you kind of beat that stress by overeating. By the way, that's not a lesson take home from the class. That's something that's seen in this world. So even using transcendental stress, hunger, stress eating, when Krishna and the friends, they go into the mouth of Aghasura and then the demon is delivered, then they'll come out and then they will eat more and they'll relish more. So it's always an exciting twist. But now, in the second line, Aghasura's mentality has been described. teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ. Dear devotees, teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ. These 5 words, they are very important to all of us. And we'll get to that in a bit. So teṣāṁ refers to all the boys. Sukha-krīḍana. Sukha means joyful and krida means activities, pastimes. And vikshana means to see. Ikshanam. Lochanam, nayanam, netram, ikshanam, chakshur, akshini. The Amarakosha describes eyes as ikshanam, to see. And when you add a v pratyay to it, prefix to it, vishesha, so vikshanam, to see very nicely, right? So, teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇa, to see very nicely the sweet pastimes of the friends with Krishna, akshama, was unbearable, was intolerable. So these 5 words, for Aghasura, it was intolerable to glance and see the playful pastimes of Krishna's friends. That's like a little tagline for today's discussion. A demon is defined as a demon when he is not happy to see the devotees happy. When someone is with Krishna performing bhakti, and we have a problem with that, it's the Aghasura in our heart who is opening his mouth to devour the devotional sentiments of that devotee. Time and again, we see this in Shastra. Time and again. Think about the pastime of Rukmi and Rukmini. All that Rukmini wanted was to get married to Krishna. That's all Rukmini wanted. Rukmi, the brother of Rukmini, wanted Rukmini to get married to Shishupal. That's right. Get married to Shishupal. Birds of the same feather flock together. So Rukmi and Shishupal both are pretty demoniac. And Rukmi, being the brother of Rukmini, was not happy that Rukmini wanted to get married to Krishna. Rukmini writes a letter to Krishna in desperation. My dear Krishna, my dear Dwarkadish, please help me. Please come and kidnap me. Yasyangri pankaja rajasnapanam mahanto vanchantyumapatirivatmatamophatye. Yaryam bhujakshana labheya bhavat prasadat. Very beautiful. She writes a letter with 7 verses, beseeching, begging Krishna's lotus feet, please come and help me. Please kidnap me from this assembly and help me. All that I want is I want to be your queen. Krishna, I haven't even seen you. Rukmini has never seen Krishna. Of course, eternally has seen Krishna, but in the past time, manifestation hasn't seen Krishna. But she listens to Krishna katha spoken by a devotee. And just by hearing Krishna katha spoken by a devotee, it ignites the spark in her heart to get to Krishna. So that's another hidden lesson for us. When we hear Krishna's pastimes, although we have never seen Krishna, if we hear Krishna's pastimes from the lips of a devotee, it must fan the spark. It must fuel the fire in our heart to actually get to Krishna. That's the test of Hari Katha. It is not entertainment. Hari Katha or Krishna Katha is not Krishna Katha when it's just filled with jokes and frivolity and diluted, watered down messages. It is Krishna Katha when it detaches us from this world, reveals the truth of life in a very palatable, applicable way. It gives us lessons to practice and ignites the fire of devotion, the sentiment to positively engage ourselves in the service of Krishna. And all of this happened in the life of Rukmini. Rukmini now writes a letter to Krishna, desiring to get to Krishna. And Rukmi is infuriated. He's enraged. He's enraged. In fact, Rukmi abuses Krishna. When Krishna kidnaps Rukmini, Rukmi hurls abuses at Krishna, and he calls Krishna a crow who's stealing the sacrificial butter from a performance. When there's a fire sacrifice and you have to offer the sacrificial ghee and butter, and imagine if a crow comes and picks it away. It's very inauspicious. So Rukmi, he mentions that, oh Krishna, you're like a filthy crow who's kidnapping the sacrificial butter of Rukmini's life from this sacrifice of the marriage performance with Shishupal. Now, what's interesting is this is the exact opposite of what the reality is. Think about it. Rukmini eternally belongs to Krishna. And Rukmi temporarily is the brother of Rukmini. Rukmini eternally belongs to Krishna as the goddess of fortune. Krishna is Vishnu and Rukmini is Lakshmi eternally. And Rukmi just happens to be a temporary brother for a few years. When we think the temporary to be eternal and the eternal to be temporary, that's the exact opposite of what the reality is. That is called Maya, that which is not. And this happens in our life too. It's very symbolic because Rukmini means wealth, Lakshmi. And whom does wealth or money belong to? Krishna. But when we possess money for a few years and we think, now this is very interesting. When we possess money for a few years and we think, I am giving charity to a Krishna temple. Hey, you are not giving charity to a Krishna temple. That wealth in your bank account is Rukmini belonging to Krishna. Don't act like Rukmi, that you possess the wealth more than Krishna. That Rukmini just happens to be sitting in the palace with Rukmi. But she actually belongs to Dwarkadish, belongs to Krishna. So similarly, the wealth, the opulence, any form of comfort, any form of anything actually that we possess, it belongs to Krishna. But we, like Rukmi, hoard over it. We lord over it. And we become very touchy when we have to offer it to Krishna. Just like how Rukmi became very uncomfortable offering his daughter, his sister Rukmini to Krishna. So this is a very important lesson. And at the same time, like Aghasura in this pastime, Rukmi became teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ. Teṣāṁ means of the cowherd boys. Sukha-krīḍana means joyful, playful pastimes. Vīkṣaṇa means to see, and akshama means unbearable, intolerable. So Rukmi became intolerable, seeing the sweet relation that Rukmini was developing for Krishna. And this is demoniac mentality. I hope this is hitting the point that we are trying to drill in our lives. And we see this again and again in Shastra. Think of the example of Hiranyakashipu. Think of the example of Hiranyakashipu. Teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ. When he saw Prahlad perform bhakti, and Prahlad was transcendently electrocuting for everyone in whose association he sought, or whose Prahlad's association the friends sought. He was ecstatic. He was like a transcendental magnetic field. He would attract everyone to Krishna. He would sing and dance, and whoever came in the magnetic or the electric field of Prahlad's ecstatic field, the friends would start to dance. They would sing and dance in the school classroom. Prahlad was so inspiring. He personally practiced bhakti and he preached fearlessly. When his father Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad, "What's the best thing that you have learned?" He says, "Tat sadhu manye suravadyadehinam sada samudvigna diyama satkrahan hitvatmapakam grihmandhakupam vanam gato yad harimashrayet." Oh dear father, oh Hiranyakashipu, oh best among demons, Prahlad calls out. The best thing that I have learnt in school is one shouldn't be attached to material pleasure-giving objects in this world. In fact, one should give up family life. He's telling his father, give up the blind well of family life and run to Vrindavan and remember Krishna. Vanam gatoyat, Vrindavanam gatoyat harimashrayeta. Run to Vrindavan and take shelter of Krishna. Prahlad is so fearless. Hiranyakashipu slams him down, throws him down from his lap, and instructs all his associates to attack and kill Prahlad. And Prahlad is administered poison and he's attacked with deadly weapons. He's thrown from the top of the cliff. He's crushed at the feet of this stampede of maddened elephants. He's thrown into a pit of poisonous, venomous cobra snakes. He's tossed into fire. All of this for what? One reason. teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ. His father, Hiranyakashipu, could not see Prahlad be happy with Krishna. So when we have a problem with people performing bhakti, that is the inner Rukmi. That's the inner Hiranyakashipu. That's the inner Aghāsura, who is uncomfortable seeing the progress of others. And you can see so many such examples. Ravana was infuriated that his brother Vibhishan was taking shelter of Ram. He was siding towards Ram, and in that he found supreme joy. And this was intolerable for Ravana. He kicked his brother Vibhishan out of Lanka for this. Right? The husbands of the gopis in Vrindavan, they couldn't tolerate the gopis' spontaneous attraction to Shyamasundar, Krishna's fifth note. Bali Maharaj couldn't stop himself from surrendering completely to Vamandev. And his guru Shukracharya couldn't see how his disciple Bali was offering all of his dakshina to a little dwarf. Then what about me? Was Shukracharya's inner thought. If you're going to offer everything to this little dwarf, who happens to be a guest, but he's actually God, what about my remuneration? Oh, dear disciple, don't offer everything to this visiting dwarf Brahmana. He's not just a dwarf Brahmana, he's Vishnu. He's going to take everything away from you. And even when Shukracharya said that, Bali continued and offered everything possible to Vamandev. So Bali, offering his loving, devotional, joyful surrender to Vaman, was intolerable for Shukracharya. Vibhishan's surrender to Ram was intolerable for Ravana. Prahlad's surrender to Vishnu was intolerable for Hiranyakashipu. Rukmini's love-filled letter to Dwarkadish was intolerable for Rukmi. And Krishna's friends frolicking with Krishna was intolerable for Aghasura. teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ. So next time we see someone is performing bhakti and we have a problem with them, we may not have a problem with they performing bhakti, but envy is such that somebody's joy makes us sad. This is the nature of envy. Envy is a very horrible emotion in the heart. Kama Krishna sevarpane krodha bhakta dveshi jane lobhe sadhu sange hari katha. In Prem Bhakti Chandrika, Narottam Das Thakur says, if someone has too much lust in their heart, of course, they can become grihasthas and bear Krishna conscious children and give Krishna conscious culture to those children. And in that way, offer lust in the service of Krishna. And krodha, bhakta dveshi jane, you can engage anger in the service of Krishna by getting angry at those who criticize Vaishnavas. Right? Hanuman set Lanka on fire, that Lanka which was a captive place for Mother Sita. So that which was disturbing and disrupting and a source of suffering for Mother Sita, Ashok Vatika, anger can be used there in the mood of Hanuman by setting the whole of Lanka on fire. Not that we physically have to set things on fire, but the point is, Shastra says that if someone criticizes Krishna or criticizes the Vaishnava, that's the only time when you're allowed to get angry and agitated. But under control, please. And lobha, how can we engage greed in Krishna's service? By being greedy for the association of devotees, by being greedy for the association to hear Krishna katha. That is how we can engage anger, lust, and greed. But there's no way we can engage envy in Krishna's service. We cannot engage envy in Krishna's service. So therefore, when Hanuman was flying over the ocean to go to Lanka, the sea monster who was catching Hanuman represented envy. And therefore, Hanuman tore her apart, entered her body and ripped her to pieces, exemplifying this fact that if there is envy in the heart, the only way to overcome envy is to rip envy to pieces, because you can't engage that in Krishna's service. You see, we can only accept good or bad from people. If we accept the bad from people out of envy and criticize them, we fall down. Even if there is possible reason to criticize, we shouldn't. Everything is filled with faults in this world, and we should be saragrahi. We should be like a white royal regal swan which only sips the milk and leaves behind the water in the mixture. So if you see somebody who's a mixture, including ourselves, we have to have little patience and compassion with the self even. Instead of beating ourselves down, I am bad, I am not good for anything, I am not making advancement, that's okay. We are all bit by bit getting there. We must have little patience and compassion even for the self. And same for others. Instead of criticizing and seeing faults in others, we have to see good in them and glorify. Through our tongue, we glorify the good qualities in others. We not just glorify the good qualities, whenever we see that our mind is catching the bad qualities in others, that's when you switch gears and now you start seeing the good in that person. And not just seeing good in that person, you share that good with others. You say, this person is so wonderful. This Mataji makes such amazing garlands, or this Prabhuji cooks very well in the temple, or this devotee is so sincere in his or her sadhana. This Vaishnava is amazing because he's always in the mood of service. This Vaishnava is very good because he's always absorbed studying Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This Mataji is really very sincere and selfless, that she does so much service, but she always remains in the background, never expects acknowledgement. So in this way, through our worthless tongue, we make it worthy by glorifying the worthy qualities of others. And by doing this, we overcome envy. Only by glorifying others, by glorifying Krishna, we overcome envy. Aghāsura is the personification of envy. And it is envy alone which makes us uncomfortable seeing the happiness of others. So teṣāṁ sukha-krīḍana-vīkṣaṇākṣamaḥ is a tagline. It's not simply a line in the verse, it's a tagline. It's to tell ourselves, it's a point of introspection. Am I getting sad in seeing the joy of others? Am I able to happily celebrate the success of others? Or am I becoming uncomfortable seeing the material or spiritual prosperity of another person? When another Vaishnava is being glorified, do I go, well, there's another side to the Vaishnava that people don't know. He may be good in giving classes, and that's okay, but, and do I become eager to discuss that but side of him? And that's envy, because we become uncomfortable in the glorification of another individual. The outside world is the exact opposite. When you go for a job interview, you have to actually spell it out as to why the company should hire you over anyone else. And therefore, you have to say what I can bring on the table, which nobody else can. But spiritual life is exact opposite, where you want to learn the art of celebrating the success of another individual, right? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Parat dukhe sukhi sadha mithyabhashi amara jivana sada pape ratho nahi ka punyero lesh. Oh Krishna, আমার জীবন সদা পাপে রত নাহিক পুণ্যের লেশ. Oh Krishna, আমার জীবন সদা পাপে রত নাহিক পুণ্যের লেশ. Krishna, my life is filled with sinful mentality. And there's not one trace of goodness in my life. Why? Because para dukhe sukhi. I am always happy when I see another person struggle. Think about it. It's the reality. We may not agree to this, but in circumstantial pinches, when life pinches us with circumstances, we observe. Imagine there's somebody who criticized you on the internet. I hope, wish, and pray that doesn't happen, but let's say someone criticizes us on the internet, and now in their life, you see they lost their job, let's say. What would the envious, egocentric mind say? Yeah, well, God's watching. Krishna's watching. We, man, as you sow, so shall you reap. Do unto others as you want others to do unto you. So God's watching. And if this is how you behave with me, who's chanting Hare Krishna, then it may come back to you like a boomerang. We may not say it, but the mind will feel, okay, good to know. In America, there is a phrase. Those who know, they know. Those who don't, this is an interesting one to keep away from. There's a phrase called good for you. Good for you. So when someone says, hey, I got a nice job, a very high paying job, then the natural response is, oh, good for you. It's good for you. So it literally says, okay, it may be good for you. Well, not so good for me. We don't say it, we say, okay, good for you. But in the Vedic understanding, the expression is Vasudha eva kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. So your joy is my joy. Your sorrow is my sorrow. Even if I am happy, let's say I got a job and you lost a job, I'm not going to come and tell you that I got a job. Not because I want to hide it from you, because I want to be sensitive enough to the emotions that you are placed in at the moment. Krishna consciousness is very, very sensitive. It's not about how many rounds we are chanting and how many classes we are hearing and how many verses we have memorized. These are not the actual thing. Krishna consciousness means the sensitivity with which we deal with people and circumstances, keeping Krishna in the center. So Aghasura represents envy. Duryodhan represents envy. Duryodhan had everything in life. Everything that you and I aspire for materially, Duryodhan had it. He had a golden palace, he had silken robes, he had luxurious apartments and places to royal palaces and courtrooms and servants. Everything so regal, everything so royal, everything so aristocratic. He was so charismatic. Duryodhan was one of the most amazing, attractive persons. He had everything to pamper his false ego. But one thing that kept him a, as a demon was he was not able to tolerate the success of the Pandavas. He couldn't see how the Pandavas um, got the best wishes and the goodwill and the blessings of everyone. And this was intolerable. He was ready to do anything to destroy the Pandavas, whether it's setting their house on fire, whether it's administering poison to Bhim. Oh, everything possible. Killing Draupadi's sleeping children through Ashwatthama. And even going on to the extent of killing the grandchildren of Arjun in the form of Parikshit, trying to kill Parikshit in the form of the Brahmastra shot by Ashwatthama in the womb of Uttara. So Duryodhan, Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Rukmi, and now Aghasura, they represent this negative voice that I can't be happy seeing somebody else being happy. We have to introspect. Somebody gets better grades than us. Somebody makes more money. Somebody has a bigger home. Somebody has a more luxurious car. Somebody has a better marital status, marriage status than us. Somebody has Krishna conscious children. Yeah, our child could be a wreck, not even chanting, but somebody else could have a child who's chanting 16 rounds in Brahma Muhurta, and we're like, yeah, good. It's nice. I'm happy for you. Right? Till the time we have this comparative envious spirit, it is considered to be demoniac. It is considered to be demoniac. So Aghasura's entrance into this pastime is also giving way of the entrance of us to open our hearts and introspect and kick the snake-like envious Aghasura out of the Vrindavan forest of our heart, so that the devotional friend-like sentiment can play with the super soul Krishna in the forests of our heart. That is possible only when the snake is kicked out. Nityaṁ yad-antar nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ pītāmṛtair amaraiḥ pratīkṣyate. Now these two lines talk about how Krishna's pastimes were so attractive. Amaraiḥ, the word amara refers to the Devatas, the demigods. Na mara. Mara means death. A means no. Amara nirjaras devas tridhasha vibudhasura. The Amara Kosha describes Devatas to be Amara, those who don't have death. And the Devatas, who actually they also have death, but it's just that they don't have unnatural death. You'll never hear any of the Devatas have a sudden heart attack, or they have an accident, or there's an epidemic, there's a, coronavirus in heavenly kingdom. Nothing like this. They have a long life, and everyone goes through that duration and their tenure, and they get replaced only after a very, very long life of thousands and thousands of years. So they're called Amara. They're almost immortals compared to human beings. And pītāmṛtair, they always keep drinking nectar in heaven. But even those Devatas who constantly access nectar in heaven, pratīkṣyate, they're always waiting eagerly. What are they waiting for? Two things. They are eagerly waiting nityaṁ yad-antar nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ. Nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ, one meaning is nityaṁ yad-antar nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ. These Devatas who are drinking nectar, they always want to be alive for a very, very long time. Why? Because they love to see the pastimes of Krishna with his friends. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Sanatan Goswami comment, even if you are a Devata with thousands and thousands of years of life drinking nectar in heaven, still the reality doesn't change that the actual nectar worthy of being drunk are the pastimes of Krishna in Braj. Even the Devatas who drink nectar and live a long life, nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ, who desire to live longer and longer and longer, pratīkṣyate, they only await for the opportunity to see the pastimes of Krishna with his friends in Braj. That's meaning number one. And meaning number two, the second meaning is Devatas who drink nectar in heaven, even they were afraid of Aghāsura, nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ. They were thinking we are demigods and we drink nectar, so we have a long life. We don't have unnatural death. But they still are afraid of Aghasura. What if Aghasura comes into heaven? Then he may end up killing us. So this pastime includes both the interests of the Devatas. The deliverance of Aghasura, from whom they even fear, being Devatas drinking nectar in heaven, they still fear being killed by Aghasura. What if Aghasura comes to heaven? And at the same time, the Devatas drink the actual nectar of the pastimes of Krishna. So in this pastime, the Devatas in the sky, let's say, in the abode of Indra, they are watching closely. When you see something far away, you want to catch every detail. So they're from behind the clouds, as they say. The Devatas are wrapped in attention. They're watching as Aghasur enters and as Krishna's frolicking with the friends. Oh, these are the two things that they're alive for: to drink the nectar of Krishna's leelas and to see the killing of Aghasur. So this means so much to the demigods. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada's written for this verse. We can kindly screen share to the 13th verse, and we will see Srila Prabhupada's comment. Yes. Could we scroll to the purport? Srila Prabhupada writes, yes. One may ask how Krishna's pastimes could be interrupted by a demon. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur answers this question by saying that although the transcendental pleasure being enjoyed by the cowherd boys could not be stopped unless they stopped the transcendental pleasure of these various activities, they could not eat their lunch. Therefore, at lunchtime, wow, that's an interesting detail. At lunchtime, so Krishna and his friends who went early in the morning, prata samuthaya, remember, early in the morning? Now they've been playing for many hours. So Prabhupada says at lunchtime, Aghasura appeared by the arrangement of Yogamaya, who's the pastime potency, so that for the time being, they could stop their activities and take lunch. Changing varieties is the mother of enjoyment. Wow, that's an interesting tagline. Changing varieties is the mother of enjoyment. So next time we feel spiritually monotonous, try to change different activities that you're performing. You're chanting japa for some time, we feel little bored, or we feel little sleepy, or you feel little monotonous, change it to kirtan, or change it to reading Srila Prabhupada's books, or change it to hearing Krishna katha, or it could be changing and bringing in the variety of deity worship, or offering some service to the Vaishnavas, and then coming back to japa. So changing varieties is the mother of enjoyment. That's nice. That's a very interesting line to have it printed in our rooms. Just next to our writing desk, we can say, changing varieties is the mother of spiritual enjoyment. So next time we feel bored performing any activity, we can take shelter of this line of Srila Prabhupada's purport. The cowherd boys would continuously play and then stop and then again enjoy in a different way. Therefore, every day a demon would come and interrupt their sporting pastimes. The demon would be killed, and then the boys would engage again in their transcendental pastimes. Thank you, Prabhu. So this is interesting. Prabhupada says every day demons were sent only so that Krishna gets tired killing the demon, and then all the boys can sit together and have their breakfast or their lunch or their dinner. So probably a demon in the morning for Krishna's breakfast, and a demon in the afternoon just to increase Krishna's appetite for lunch. And then an evening demon who says, hey, Krishna, it's time up. You don't have a wristwatch, and you don't have you're not in London with a Big Ben, so everyone sees what the time is. So now this is an evening demon who comes and tells you, it's time up, time to go back from Vrindavan to Vraja. And then Krishna knocks the demon down and says, hey, see you all tomorrow. All the trees and forests, birds and animals, we'll see you tomorrow as we go back to the human settlement of the land of Vraj. So now we will see what other acharyas have also commented in this regard. Srila Vallabhacharya ji has written that starting from this verse for 21 verses, Aghasura is taking the scene. For 21 verses, Sripad Vallabhacharya says, start from Aghasura's entrance into the forest and culminating in his liberation. It forms the discussion in this chapter. Srila Sridhar Swami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, all of them have made the common point that you could be a Devata, you could be a demigod with a very long life, even accessing the royal beverages of immortality. Still, you would aspire for the actual nectar of the opportunity to hear and see Krishna's pastimes, which are the actual nectar. So therefore, samsara sindhum ati dustaram uttitirsho nanya plava bhagavata purushottamasya leela katha rasani sevanam antarena pumsam bhaved vivida dukkha davardhitasya. Bhagavatam describes that if you want to cross over the ocean of birth and death and the ocean of suffering, then the only boat that is available is the boat of hearing the pastimes of Krishna. If you get onto the boat of the leela katha, the pastimes, the narrations of Krishna, then we can definitely cross over the ocean of all suffering. This is why Srila Prabhupada gave the Krishna book, which is a book full of the pastimes of the 10th canto, Krishna Leela. Even before somebody accesses Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada gave out the Krishna book in the streets of New York City. Even for those in 1965, 1966, and later in the years, those who had no access to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, even first canto, they were relishing the pastimes of the Krishna book. In fact, Srila Prabhupada would say we should read the Krishna book at night, just before we go off to sleep. So we end the day with proper consciousness. So even for children, even for devotees, those who don't have the Krishna book, it's just called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should get a copy for yourself and read the book end to end. It has beautiful pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. And this should be the topic of our listening. This should be the topic of our speaking. This should be the topic of our meditation. The 90 chapters of the 10th canto are all very beautifully given in a nutshell in the Krishna book. And that's the actual nectar, which nityaṁ yad-antar nija-jīvitepsubhiḥ pītāmṛtair amaraiḥ pratīkṣyate. Even the amaras, the immortal beings who have access to nectar, somarasa in heaven, they prefer to drink the nectar of Krishna Leela-amritam. Therefore, when Maharaj Prataparudra, he was not being accepted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was in the royal order. Nishkinchanasya bhagavad bhajanonmukhasya param param jikamishor bhavasagarasya samdarshanam vishayinam athayoshitanam ha hanta hanta vishabhakshana topya sadhu. The Shastra describes that for a renunciant or for someone who's aspiring to make spiritual advancement, association with women for a or in the mood of sensual pleasure, subtle and gross both, and association with people who are materially minded, who are absorbed in material enjoyment, it's completely detrimental to spiritual advancement. Of course, now Maharaj Prataparudra was a pure devotee. He was not associating with the opposite gender in a sensual way, or he was not even a sense gratifier. It just happened to be that he was a pure devotee and he was in the royal order, serving as a king. It was just happened to be his service, although he was a pure Vaishnava. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was setting the example for the whole world that for a renunciant, a sannyasi, it's not appropriate to be luxurious and to have any association with men of the royal order, because somebody could say that maybe the sannyasi is getting some opulent perks from the king. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would never give any attention to the king. And the king would yearn and aspire to have the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a very beautiful section in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But in the context of our discussion, It's sufficient to say that after many attempts, Maharaj Prataprudra was finally advised to go and serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu incognito. So he gave up his royal clothes and he just covered himself in the clothes of a mendicant. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was resting after his ecstatic dance in front of Jagannath, Maharaj Prataprudra entered the garden and massaged the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, singing the pastimes of Krishna. And that's when Mahaprabhu got up. Shunite shunite Prabhu santosha apar. Bolo bolo bale Prabhu bale bar bar. Mahaprabhu woke up with so much excitement and he embraced Maharaj Prataprudra to his heart. And he said, "Who are you? Prabhu bale ke tumi kaila mora hit. Achambite ashi pyao Krishna leela. Who are you? Who are you? I don't recognize you." Mahaprabhu is asking Maharaj Prataprudra because he's dressed as a mendicant. He said, "Who are you? You are very magnanimous. Bhurida, Bhurida, because you're coming and forcibly feeding me with the nectar of Krishna's pastimes. Who are you? Unfortunately, I have no nectar to give you except my embrace. Who are you?" And the king says, "Raja kahe ami tomar daser anudas, bhrityera bhritya koro ei mora as." "O dear king, I aspire to be the servant of your servants eternally. You please kindly accept me in this mood and engage me in your service." The king begged. And that's when Mahaprabhu lovingly accepted him. So the point where we are trying to make is our situation is like Maharaj Prataprudra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't accept us and give us his mercy. But if we can absorb ourselves in the pastimes of Krishna, and if you have a Gaur-Nitai deity at home, if you have Gaur-Nitai picture at home, just sit there and read the Krishna book to your Gaur-Nitai. And that's following in the footsteps of Maharaj Prataprudra singing Krishna's pastimes for Mahaprabhu's pleasure. And that's when it's possible, as you're reading the Krishna book one fine day, Gaur-Nitai may come out of the picture and embrace you. Like how Mahaprabhu embraced Maharaj Prataprudra. It's possible. If not in person, but at least heart to heart. Mahaprabhu will embrace and bless all of us if we take shelter of Krishna's pastimes. So this is the actual nectar. This is the nectar that we are all aspiring for. Abdhau vidhau vadhumukhe phaninam nivase swarge sudha vasati vai vibudha vadanti ksharam kshayam patimrtam garalam patantam kanthe sudha vasati vai bhagavad jananam. If the question is asked, where is actual nectar found in this world? Some may say abdhau, it's found in the ocean. Because when the ocean was churned, that's when the nectar came out, right? In one of the pastimes, the churning of the milk ocean. So somebody would say, by churning the milk ocean, you find the nectar in the Bhagavatam, the churning of the milk ocean. So certainly nectar must be in the ocean. Then the counter question is, if that is so, then why is the water so salty? Why is the water so salty? Which means there is no nectar in the ocean. So if the question again is asked, where is actual nectar? So then somebody else would say, Vidhu, it is in the Vidhu. It is on the moon. Because there's a saying, the nectar of the moon, the nectar of moonbeams, Soma Rasa, the ambrosial beverage that's available on the moon planet. So somebody would say, well, maybe nectar, if not in the ocean, it's possibly available on the moon. Then the counter question is, if nectar is found on the moon, why does it go through waxing and waning? The moon should be steady in the sky. Why does it increase and decrease? Which means there's no nectar even on the moon. Then, abdhau vidhau vadhumukhe. Then somebody else would say, well, actual nectar. If you ask someone who's newly married, you ask him, where's actual nectar? He would say, the nectar is found on the face of my beloved wife. I'm not saying that's the answer. That could be one of the answers given by people, right? So we are going through each option. So then the counter question to that is, if nectar is found on the face of your wife, or for the wife, the nectar is found on the face of your husband, then the one who is constantly seeing that nectar, which means the spouse, Why do they die eventually? Why does the one who's actually seeing the nectarian face of the spouse eventually end up dying, which means there is no nectar even there? Okay, then where is the actual nectar found? Paninam nivase. Then another option is maybe it's found in the planets of the snakes. Because in the Mahabharata, there is a story where Bhima gets poisoned and he is tied with ropes and thrown into the water body, and he sinks down and enters the planet of the snakes, where they bite him, and then vishasya visham aushadam. Duryodhan has given so much poison in the body of Bhim, and now Bhim is sinking into the water, and with his body completely filled with poison. And as he enters the planet of the serpents, they bite him with another kind of poison, which outsmarts the first type of poison, kicks that poison out, and he becomes healthy. And only then, Vasuki and other descendants in the snake dynasty, in that planet of the snakes, they recognize Bhim to be the son of Kunti and say, hey, hey, he's our descendant. We are not supposed to give him poison. We're supposed to give him nectar. So they initially gave poison, which kicked the previous poison out. And now when his body was healthy, they gave him a pot of nectar. And anybody who drinks just a drop of that nectar coming from the planet of the snakes would feel very rejuvenated, and at the same time will become very strong. Bhim was so hungry that he ended up drinking 8 pots, one after another. He started sipping and swallowing and gulping 8 pots of nectar. And in no time, he came out of that water with the strength of 10,000 elephants. That's how Bhim becomes as strong as he is, because of the drinking of the nectar coming from the planet of the serpents. So that could be the fourth option. Maybe nectar is found in the planet of the serpents. Then if that's the case, Garalam, why do those snakes who live in the planet of nectar carry poison on their throat? How is that possible? Which means there is no nectar even there. And then the final option is, okay, there's no nectar in the ocean, there's no nectar on the moon, there's no nectar on the face of a beloved, there's no nectar in the planet of the serpents. Then where is nectar? Swarge, or maybe it's in the transcendental jurisdiction or the kingdom of Indra. Then if that's the possibility, then the counter question to that is, patantam, why do people fall from heaven? Once you go there, abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravartinorjuna, why does a person who goes to heaven, why does he fall back again? Which means there's no nectar even there. Okay, you've been saying the places where there is no nectar. Now please tell us, where is actual nectar found? So the verse says, Abdo vidau vadumukhe phaninam nivase swarge sudha vasati vai vibudha vadanti ksharam kshayam patimratam garalam patantam. Actual place where nectar is found. Kanthe sudha vasati vai bhagavajjananam. Those personalities who sing the nectar of Krishna leela, nectar lives on in their throats. That's the actual presence, because that nectar in the throat of a Vaishnava who's speaking Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam makes that person immortal and makes the people who listen to the Hari Katha immortal. So therefore, dear devotees, that is the presence of the actual nectar, which even pītāmṛtair amaraiḥ pratīkṣyate, in this verse, even the Devatas who live eternally and who have access to nectar in the heavenly planet, they are busy relishing the frolicking pastimes of Krishna in the forest, and they are eagerly waiting for the fear personification in their life, Aghāsura, to be killed. So now Aghasura is making his entrance into the pastimes of Krishna in this verse, teaching us 2 principles. Aghasura represents envy, feeling sad, seeing another person happy. And through the Devatas, this verse teaches us, even if you have a lifetime of 311 trillion 40 billion years with every material comfort possible, the nectar that will actually quench the heart, the soul, is absorption in Krishna's pastimes. And if that is present in this world, in the association of Vaishnavas, we don't want anything higher. And even if you get something very high, like the position of Brahma, if you don't have Hari Katha, then it's not satisfying to the soul. Therefore, finally, to conclude, Uddhava says, Eta param tanupruto bhuvi gopavadvo govinda eva nikhilatmani ruda bhava vanchanti yad yai bhagavat vanchanti yad bhavabhiyo munaya vayamcha kim brahma janma bhir ananta katha rasasya. Uddhava says, Kim Brahma Janma Bhir Ananta Katha Rasasya. If someone tastes the Ananta Katha Rasa, the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, what is the need to be Lord Brahma? What is the need to be born in a Brahminical family or become the creator of the material creation, Lord Brahma? If you are tasting the nectar of Krishna leela on this earth planet, what is the need to be born as a Brahmana? Or what is the need to be born as Lord Brahma? On the other hand, if you're born as a Brahmana by birth, or even if you're born as the creator of this material world, if we don't have access to hearing Krishna Katha, Kim Brahma Janma Bhirananta Katha Rasasya, then what is the use of your taking birth as a Brahmana? What is the use of your taking birth as Brahma? If you have this nectar of Krishna Leela, what is the need to be born as Brahma? And if you are born as Lord Brahma, and if you have no access to Krishna Katha, then what is the use of your taking birth as Lord Brahma? So these are the two lessons we could, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy and the nectar given by our acharyas in the form of their purport, these are the two lessons that we could catch and try to imbibe and reflect on, introspect by the study of the 13th verse. And tomorrow, the thought process of Aghāsura behind whatever he's going to do will be discussed. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Raj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.